Welcome back, students. So we're continuing on with question 4, where we hear about Frankie's aunt Breda living in New York. Now, before I even continue on with this question, I just want to talk to you about the 4 steps for problem solving. Okay, they are to understand the problem, know what's being asked, know what's trivia that is not important, like that Frankie has an aunt called Breda or Brenda or whatever else. It's irrelevant. And once you do understand the problem and what's being asked, how to make a plan on how to solve it or calculate, go ahead and carry it out using your calculator or whatever means. And then to look back and double check you've answered everything correctly, think about if you used the best way, etc. This is particularly important while you're learning and studying, maybe not quite so important in an exam when you really are under pressure for time. Okay? So with that in mind, we're going to actively read the problem as problem solvers. So Frankie's aunt lives in New York. That is most likely absolute rubbish. We do not need to think about it. We do not need to worry about it. Breda has to fly to Moscow on a business trip. Now, it doesn't matter why she's going. The important thing is Breda has to fly to Moscow from New York. Okay, before her flight, she changes 1,200 US dollars to Russian rubles. Okay, because that's the currency in Russia. Okay, the exchange rate is $1 is equal to 70.59 rubles. Okay, so do we understand the problem? Well, what's the question? How many rubles does she get? Well, before we even ask how many rubles does she get, how many US dollars does she have? She has 1,200 US dollars. Okay, what does she want to convert it into? Rubles, because she's going to Russia. Okay, well then the next question is, what's the exchange rate? Do we know the exchange rate? We know that 1 US dollar is equal to 70.59 rubles. Now this is given in such a way that we'll be able to use it directly. It's already in unit form for us because we have a dollars figure and we have the unit dollar is worth 70.59. So make a plan. How are we going to find out what $1,200 is worth in rubles if we know what $1 is worth in rubles? So the plan is to multiply. So let's carry out that plan. So before we put it in our calculator, we'll write down our sum. Okay, we'll place that into our calculator. Making sure we're putting it in right. I'm checking on the question as well as in my writing. And we get 84,708 rubles. Okay. Now let's just check how we've carried out all the steps. Did we understand the problem? Yes. Did we make a plan? Yes. Did we carry out the plan? Yes. Did we look back? Not really, but in this case it's quite simple. And so what is $1,200 worth? 84,708 rubles. Is there another way to do it? Not really. Okay, so looking back, and as I said in exams, we don't really look back. So we'll push on and we'll apply the same steps here. New York time is 7 hours behind Moscow time. Okay, so if it's 1 o'clock in New York, it's 8 o'clock in Moscow. Breda's flight leaves New York on Wednesday. So let's just put an example there. If it was 1 p.m. in New York, at the very same time, adding on 7, it would be 8 p.m. in the evening in Moscow. New York is behind Moscow. Okay, so we understand that state of affairs. Brida's flight leaves New York and heads towards Moscow. Okay, so it leaves New York at 11 a.m. and it takes 12 hours. Okay, let's keep going with our visual here. If it leaves at 11 a.m., what time is it in New York when in Moscow when she leaves? So she's still only leaving, but she's not in Moscow. But what time is it in Moscow? Well, let's add on 7 hours. After 1 hour, it'll be 12 a.m. It'll be noon. And then after 6 more hours, it's 6 p.m. So it'll be 6 p.m. while she's leaving. And the journey takes 12 hours. So we're adding 12 to 6 to get 6 a.m. Okay, now we've gone into the next day. It had been Wednesday, now it's Thursday. So the time is 6 a.m. and it's Thursday. Okay, students, as always,